you start like one.
Do you remember the moment where you fell in love?
Right here, Lincoln.
When green and gold became more than just colors? When you witnessed a miracle?
He got it! Unbelievable! Look at this! The miracle continues!
The sound of bells on campus and your first game day?
Nickel Bears! Nickel Bears!
Do you remember the first time you ran the line? Forged in our shared experience.
Let's get this thing rocking! You guys ready?
Love for this family. For the good times.
Let's go! Nickel Bears!
And for the game.
What a win for Baylor!
It's enriched within us.
What better can you ask for to come do it like this?
A place where we become united as one. A place where we fell in love. And a place we all call home.
Welcome into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. It's homecoming, and you can see the energy is high behind us. I'm Nicole Sheeran alongside Derek Smith and the voice of the Bears, John Morris. We have got a stacked show for you today. President Livingstone will be joining us. Nick Florence will be joining us, but we'll get into all of that a little later on. But guys, to start off, it's homecoming. The Bears hosting Iowa State, a big conference matchup. How are we feeling?
Big game, obviously, and homecoming is big at Baylor. You know, some schools it's old, it's passé, they don't pay much attention to it. But homecoming is a really big deal here at Baylor, and it's been a week full of activities, and it all culminates right here today.
And you were at the parade. How was that this morning?
It was very good. 300 entries, 13 really nice floats, and I don't know how they got those floats done with the rain we had last night, but it was really, really good. And so many people on campus, and now they're making their way over here to the game.
And Derek, we were talking earlier, you know, we're hoping for that Sailor Bear magic today, right? You were telling me about that. Talk a little bit about the history of homecoming, what it means that the Bears are going to be wearing the Sailor Bears for today.
Absolutely. You know, John is very much on brand today. John's got the Sailor Bear pullover today. But, you know, Sailor Bear has been around Baylor since the 50s, but it was only in 2018 that we saw him on the helmets for the first time. And Baylor won those first two homecoming games in dramatic fashion. Oklahoma State 2018, Texas Tech 2019 with Sailor Bear. So that's where the idea of Sailor Bear magic came from. And that's been a fun new addition that ties to the past to homecoming. But again, you're talking about the first homecoming in the nation, and I think it's still the best homecoming in the nation.
And let's talk a little bit about, you know, it's been a while since we've been behind the desk here. What is it going to be like for the Bears to be back at home facing a tough Iowa State team?
Coming off a win on the road over Cincinnati last week, which was a hard-earned win, but really good. So hopefully some momentum from that. And Coach Aranda, you know, we say to Coach Aranda, hey, you're 2-0 on the road this year. And he immediately says, yeah, we've got to get it right at home. So he knows that they've got to carry whatever is working for them well on the road. They know they've got to carry that here to these home games, and that begins today against a really good Iowa State team.
Absolutely, and I think against Cincinnati, we saw a completely different offense that Baylor showed, and I think, like you said, carrying that over into this matchup. We're going to dive into, you know, the offense and defensive side of this whole matchup later on, but just kind of generally, what are you expecting to see from this Iowa State team, and what is Baylor going to have to, you know, what big differences are going to have to be made?
Iowa State has a really good passing defense. That's a strength for them, just like the passing game has been a strength for Baylor. Baylor's passing aerial numbers this year are really up in about as good as anyone who's not elite this year, right? We're in the upper echelon of the nation, maybe just outside the elite, but very, very good this year. They're going to bring a good defense. I mean, Iowa State games, Baylor games are always tough, right? They always seem to come down to the wire. They're always a dogfight. And for Baylor, I think finishing drives, if you could finish a couple more drives last week, that's a blowout win and not just a win against Cincinnati. More than that, you finish drives at home, you could really get the crowd behind you and hopefully build some momentum into the fourth quarter.
And let's talk a little bit about the history of Baylor, Iowa State. Last year, Bears were named. They got the win on the road. What are you kind of thinking that's going to happen today, and what's kind of been the history of this matchup?
Yeah, it just seems like it's always a knockdown drag-out. I mean, two good teams for the most part battling each other. Baylor has won 3 of the last 4 over Iowa State, and on homecoming, Baylor's won 4 straight homecoming games, so we're hopeful that continues. In fact, 11 of the last 12 homecoming games Baylor has won, and Iowa State has been 4 of those. So let's hope all that continues.
Exactly.
Today.
Let's hope that continues. And going off of Iowa State, this program has had a big turnaround season. Last year they were towards the bottom of the Big 12. What have you guys seen from them just in terms of performance out there against both teams have faced Cincinnati at this point? Iowa State got the win 30-10, I believe. I see it as a pretty even matchup that we have here today, but what do you guys kind of see?
I think that's the case because that's what the history of this series has been, no matter which team's up or which team's down. As John mentioned, teams will be a little knockdown, drag out. It's a close game. Luckily for Baylor, I think they've had the edge at home. This has been a place that Iowa State has played well but has struggled to close and win. In fact, they've won here just once since 2004. But this is a resilient team. You asked about Iowa State. They dealt with a tumultuous offseason with several key players getting caught up in gambling allegations. And you look at who they lost and you think, I don't know, John, I didn't think that this was going to be a team that would be fighting to move to the upper spot in the Big 12. But credit to their head coach and Matt Campbell, they've done that. So it's going to be up to the Bears to kind of match that toughness and more here at home and kind of push them back towards where people thought they might be at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely, and we'll touch on this later on, but Derek, what you just said about they lost some of those key guys at the beginning of the season. Now they've got Rocco Beck under center. Bears have Blake Shapen. What are you expecting? Is there going to be kind of a quarterback duel happening today?
Well, for Blake, they've got that great secondary, so that's going to be a strength against a strength. And for Baylor, these games have tended not to be shootouts, but you are going to have to score and you're going to have to finish drives. Blake's done a good job avoiding the turnover. He's going to have to continue to do that. Baylor's secondary is slowly becoming a strength. A lot of young guys, John, have really stepped up, and they made some big plays against UC Saturday. Yeah,
some young guys, but, boy, they are really starting to make their mark, so that'll be a good test.
Absolutely. No, and they, like we had said earlier, young guys making their mark, but also we saw a lot of changes last week with the O-line, with balls in the air. The passing game was completely different than what we've really seen all season. But against an Iowa State team, they rush 3, they have 8 in the back. The Bears are going to have to figure out the run game.
Got to run the ball.
They got to run the ball.
Yeah, they have to run the ball. So we'll see how that plays out. But, I liked what our coaches did last week. Coming off the open day, they didn't stand pat. They self-scouted. They looked at themselves. They said, what do we need to do? What do we need to do different, better? And I think it sort of showed that they did things better.
Well, we just talked about the 2 quarterbacks today, but Nick Florence, the starting QB in 2012 for Baylor, is going to be joining us on the desk, the Baylor legend till today. So we'll be right back on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. Is it something going on with this?
Yeah. Bring it up. There you go.
Is it like loose or something?
Yeah, it might be a little loose.
All right,
Sorry.
legend. Come on, legend.
Hey, come on, legend.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome,
thank
Nick.
you.
Don't touch the table.
Don't touch anything. Hello.
Yeah. I'm afraid.
Can you hear okay, Nick?
I can
It's
hear.
good.
Awesome. I'm Nicole. Nice
I'm
to meet
Nick.
you.
Nice
How's it
to meet
going?
you. Good.
Welcome.
What's up?
Good to have you here.
Nicole, this is a true legend.
I was about to say,
I
this is
don't know
a
about
true
that.
legend.
Yes.
I've heard a lot.
Absolutely.
On and off the field,
That's
he
right.
won on the
Absolutely.
field. Now he's raising money for Baylor.
That's
It's
Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We have Baylor legend Nick Florence joining us on the desk. Nick, thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Welcome.
How does it feel to be here?
I'm usually running around on game days, but not with a headset on and in front of a camera. So this is fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, Nick, obviously, we were saying before, a true legend at the desk with us today. How does it feel being back for the Iowa State game? What are you how does it feel to be in Waco?
Yeah, it's fun. What's fun is I get to do this typically every Saturday, but not in this setting. So I feel like I get to be a fan a little bit. Having worked for the university since I finished, game days are work days. So this is fun to relax a little bit and enjoy just coming back and being an alumni.
You mentioned something bears repeating to our audience, so it's a little humid today, and you look at it from a former quarterback's position that it might be good.
It's a little tacky.
Yeah,
You're not going to
holding
have
onto the ball,
to lick your fingers as much today.
Yeah.
So
if you were coming out to play today, you wouldn't
I
mind
love
this
this.
weather.
I would rather the cold front blow in after the game.
Which is going to happen.
Which is going to happen.
Right.
So.
Right. Very good. So the humidity is not a factor.
No,
in a bad
not at
way.
all. Now, and hopefully it's somewhat of an advantage for Iowa State coming down here. They're not used to probably this type of humidity.
Well, I think it's in the 30s in Ames right now. So So
glad we're in Waco.
Bring them on.
So, Nick, I want to ask you, whenever we talk about your career, of course, there's one game that stands out was the 2011 game against Texas Tech. You burned your red shirt to help win the game, and of course, we all know what happened. RG3 wins the Heisman, Alamo Bowl, all that. What's a game that people don't ask you about much that you say, man, this was a fun game, this was a big game, this was one of my favorites?
Oh, man, that's a tough question. Why are you going to put me on the spot like that? I feel like I go to 3 games, which is the Tech game, obviously Kansas State at home when they were number 1, and the bowl game. I think those are the 3 that really stand out. Honestly, though, the Oklahoma State game, the last game at Floyd Casey my senior year, they were ranked coming in, and to be able to win the game, I think Eddie Lackey had a pick 6 in that game as well. So that's a fun one to kind of end my home career on. And I still actually have a football from that game as well.
That's great.
Oh, nice.
Hey, something else, John, that we were talking last night, he mentioned that 2012 team started 3-4, ended up in the Holiday Bowl. What was the turnaround there? What are there things that this 2023 team could take from y'all's experience?
Yeah, I think it's great that a lot of people forget how in a valley we were. So we started 3-0 and then lost our first 4 Big 12 games that year. So we're sitting at 3-4 and obviously finished on a high note. I mean, I really think it's about cohesiveness and really coming together and playing complementary football. But you've got to make a decision in that locker room. Like, the leaders have got to step up. You've got to be gritty. You've got to be tough. You've got your back against the wall. Go out and prove everyone wrong. Just have that mindset that no one's going to stop you. And we ultimately started having fun, too. And I think that's a big part of it. When you start having fun and start relaxing, you start playing really well.
And, Nick, obviously every quarterback has their own kind of identity, right? And it's no secret what happened in 2011. You gave up your red shirt to come in for injured RG3. What kind of quarterback would you say you were / maybe carry over today?
I mean, I'm a scrappy quarterback. I don't have all the gifts and talents that some of these guys have.
These throws say differently.
I don't know about that.
When you've got great people around you, that was my philosophy. I'm not the most talented guy on the field, and I get a lot of really talented athletes around me. Get the ball in their hands. That was my job. Make good decisions, get the ball in their hands, and let them do what they do. And so that was my philosophy.
I would say you were selfless also. It was one part of your game and part of your personality. The K-State game you mentioned, they came in number 1 in the BCS. They were number 2 in the AP poll. But you guys
number 1.
They were number 1. You guys, I mean, it wasn't even close. You put up 52 points on them. Just whacked them that day.
Yeah, I think there was we had a really good week of practice and focused, and we came out really sharp. I think we scored the first drive of the game and really just never looked back. And we made some mistakes in that game. I think I threw an interception on the 5-yard line against our own end zone. But the team just wasn't phased at that point, and we're focused. And defense, obviously, the stop with Colin Klein on the goal line,
huge.
the 4 downs there, was unbelievable.
And just, from your perspective, obviously this is a Baylor team that's gone through some struggles at the beginning of the season. They're riding that road win train right now. But for you and your experience, what kind of goes through your head in those moments as a quarterback, and how would you maybe recommend that Chapin or whoever it is, motivates this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts within, right? Like, coaches can say all the things they want at practice and in the locker room, but it's got to start within. It's got to start with the leaders on the team, with Blake Chapin, with your senior leaders, and you just got to start believing in one another. And you got to look in the mirror and make sure if I'm holding myself accountable and doing what my job is and not worrying about anybody else, like, that's what I can control. And if everyone has that mindset and philosophy, man, you go out and give it your all, and you hope for the best.
Well, Nick, you're a true legend. It's good to have you here. Are you ready to yell out there on the field?
I think that's
the
the thing I am most nervous about, if I'm being truly honest.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we'll see how it goes.
Hey, but, we appreciate all Nick does to raise funds for Baylor Athletics
Very much
as
so.
well.
Yeah, working with Baylor Advancement now, and a lot of the projects that we have going on right now, Nick's been right in the middle of that.
Yeah,
so
that's fun.
we appreciate that.
That's
You're
fun.
the
Thank
perfect
you.
guy for that.
fun.
Good to
Great
see
team.
Judah and Ella Kate and Rachel here.
Yeah,
very,
they're
very
over there.
fun.
Yeah,
Very
that's
nice.
fun.
Very cool.
That's
Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Very nice
Appreciate you
honor
guys.
and
Yeah, and
deserving.
Nick, thank you for joining us
Absolutely.
and taking the
Thanks
time.
for
I know you're
having
a
me.
busy guy, so we appreciate
Yeah.
it. But we've got plenty more coming your way. President Livingstone will be joining us on the desk a little later on in the show, so stay with us for that. But next up, we break down this crazy Big 12 conference, so stay with us right here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We've got Seth Russell joining us on the desk. What's up, Seth?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
Yeah, I was a little under the weather this week, but, thank goodness for doctors and good medication. We're here.
Love it.
So-
We're here. We made it.
We
We're
made
alive
it.
and well.
We made it. So
Well, guys, the Big 12 just in general, a lot of new teams joining the conference next year, Texas and OU leaving to the SEC. Halfway through the season, what are you guys kind of seeing from the shakeup so far?
Yeah, I think the new guys coming in are kind of getting the taste of what Big 12 football's like, right? They're kind of sitting at the top, at the bottom. BYU is kind of flirting around the middle right now, which they've kind of had a taste earlier with, playing us last year, playing a couple teams throughout the year, these past couple seasons. But in total, I think, it's really anybody's game still. It's still pretty early. Iowa State's coming in. They have a bunch of wins in the Big 12 right now, and so that doesn't really share with what their record looks like. And so today's going to be a big test. Obviously there's a lot of games going on right now, so I think Kansas State's up over Houston 28-0, which was expected.
OU Kansas?
Yeah, OU Kansas
Yeah.
is delayed. Kansas is up by 7 right now, and so yeah, anything can happen as you can see. And then with Texas, with the Ewers going down, we'll see how they can do with the backup.
What surprises, if any, have y'all seen so far?
Iowa State's been one. Certainly,
agree.
they're one team that has been a surprise. I think the fact that Kansas State, they had an early loss to Oklahoma State. That was a surprise because I think that's one team that we see as being in Arlington. I'll say this. If you had told me that Baylor would have the start that we've had, and that with a win today, with a couple things falling into place, we might be tied for third place in Big 12, which could happen, assuming K-State holds on to win. They're way ahead, and a couple other things fell into place. Baylor could be right back in the thick of the middle of the conference again, which the way the conference started, John, I don't know that you would have said that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's true. Rough start for the Bears, but trying to climb out of that. And I think there's a large group of schools that are very similar to each other. We're kind of in the middle of the pack, but it's a very large middle because there's so many schools there. And you look at games, and how do you predict? How do you predict some of these games? Oklahoma State and Iowa State a few weeks ago. I think there is a learning curve for the new schools, and we're sort of seeing that.
Yeah.
Although UCF is favored today over West Virginia, which I was surprised to see, and they're playing at home, but they're going to win. They're going to win a conference game at some point. So, just a large a group of schools that are not much different between them. It just depends on that day how a team plays.
And how do you guys see the whole, there's the talk of unbalanced schedules, how certain teams are facing some guys, certain teams are facing others. Like, Baylor doesn't face Kansas, BYU, Oklahoma State, or OU this season. So how do you kind of see that all shaking down, this season, but also in the future?
Honestly, this is the way the Big 12 was, at least a little bit, back before the first wave of realignment in 2010. And it's really the way the rest of the nation lives for the most part. So I think it's different for us, Seth, but it's honestly not anything anyone else has been not dealing with over the last few years.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I mean, just from expectation of playing in you're going to play these guys every single year. They're all in your conference. Hey, whoever the better of the better are going to win, right? And so but I think that's why you play the game, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're, second in the nation or unranked. As soon as you step between the lines, it's anybody's game, right? It's based off game plan. Hey, who shows up, who executes, who does the thing. I mean, you look back, the most recent, the Rangers against the Astros, right? I mean, the last game of the conference, I mean, the pitchers were off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were completely off. You had to take with the Stros, and so it just really kind of shows, hey, who shows up. You had the first half of the season where you really learn and figure out who are going to be your playmakers. Hey, this second half is going to be like, okay, things are solidified. We know who's going to make the plays, who's learned, who hasn't learned, who do we need to shift around, which we saw that last week.
Right.
On the offensive side, hey, what plays into our better? What do we not like to do? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And be able to really define that now and move and be stronger for it.
Derek, I want to go back to what you said about how, with the way that this schedule shakes out for Baylor, they have a chance to be tied for the second spot or the third spot. Just for people watching, let's touch on that a little bit more about how you see that potentially happening, for the rest of the season.
Well, I'll admit that today for Baylor to finish tied for second or third, several things would have to happen. You need Oklahoma State to lose.
Right.
You need Texas to lose. And right now it doesn't look like Kansas State is going to. But this is a pivot. These next two games are really pivotal for Baylor. Neither one of them are going to be easy. Today against Iowa State, next week against Houston. But if you find a way to win those as you get into November against some really good teams, Kansas State, West Virginia, I'd say TCU is a place in Fort Worth we've struggled as of late.
Right.
If you could find yourself only needing to win one of those, that makes your path to a bowl a lot easier, and you do yourself a really big favor if you take advantage of these two games, neither of which are easy, but both of which are home games there for the taking if you play well.
Well, and like you said, Baylor has a track record of doing well on the road this season. So if they are in that spot, maybe that TCU could be that win. Kansas State could be that win if they keep that. The Road Bears is what I like to call them right now because that's what they're showing everybody,
They got to do it at home. Coach Aranda said it. John said that earlier. That you got to play better at home.
Right.
At some point, whatever the reason, whatever the challenges have been, you just got to get past them. And today would be a good day to do that, right? You want to build a win streak. This team hasn't had a win streak yet this year. You start that today, and maybe you really get that momentum going forward.
And a great day on homecoming to do it.
Yeah, good day.
It's only fitting, right?
No better day.
Yes.
No better day.
And I would say this is game 8 for the year, too. I mean, you should have an identity by this point. You should know what you do well, and be able to, put that on tape and come out and do that every game. I think we're still sort of looking for our identity, so hopefully it'll be a better step toward that today.
I mentioned that after the UCF game, is that the Bears were starting to find that identity, but they hadn't quite found it yet. And
True.
I totally agree with you that by this point of the season, that needs to start happening.
Sure.
And hopefully today we see that out there, because I think each game you see that a little bit more. But we're going to break down the defense, the offense. President Livingstone's going to be making her way to the desk with us, so stay right here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. Elliot Coffey joining us on the desk. Guys, the squad's back. It's been a few weeks.
We're here.
We're back. It feels good to be back, right?
Too many weeks. Too many weeks off.
Yes,
Too many weeks off.
exactly.
That's right.
Too many weeks. But, when Elliot joins us, you know what that means. We break down the defense, right?
That's right.
So, Elliot, start with you. What are you looking to see from these guys today?
Yeah. So as far as Baylor's defense, the big thing that I'm looking for is not giving up big plays, right? 210 yards offensively came on the ground out of 9 plays last week. You can't do that. You can't give up big plays and expect to go out there and win football games. So my expectation, alignment, assignment, set the edge. We're going to see that crack replace. It's going to keep showing up where they have a corner crack or they have a receiver crack and a tight end crack, and then they got a one-on-one situation with a running back or running back in a safety or running back in a corner. And so I'm expecting to see a lot of what we've seen in the past few weeks that we haven't done well, and I'm expecting to see us understand that we haven't played it well and execute.
Absolutely. They need to stop the run today.
They need to stop the run today.
They need to stop the run. Against Cincinnati, they allowed 288 yards on the ground.
Yes.
That cannot happen today against an Iowa State team, right?
Right, and as Elliot said, it's big plays. That hasn't necessarily been Iowa State's MO, but they bring toughness, Elliot. We were talking about it earlier. Iowa State-Baylor games over the last few years have always kind of been a dogfight, right? They always kind of have to – team that wins feels like it survives a little bit, and I think that's the kind of game we really haven't seen from this defense, but it's in front of them today, and if they play well, that would be, I think, a confidence boost.
Absolutely, yeah. We've had some rough games against Iowa State. Now that I think about just about every one that we played over the last decade, has been a little bit of a tough one. And so, yeah, we're going to go out there. It's an Iowa State team that is going to be disciplined. And so from a rough and tumble standpoint, as long as we stay disciplined, this will be one of those barn burners that we've grown accustomed to seeing.
And, the Bears are still suffering from some injuries. Mike Smith, a big one, out for the season, torn ACL.
Yeah.
What have you kind of seen in terms of younger guys stepping up and filling those gaps?
Yeah, no, I think that if you look at the linebacking core, you've had a lot of people that have rotated in there, and I think that they've played well. We've had such a revolving door of linebackers this year that, going back and doing the film room, I'm like, who am I watching? Who's 41? Who's 33? Who's, all these different names that have gone around. But I think you had some people that played really well on Saturday, and I'm expecting them to come out and play the same type of disciplined football. Linebacking core has been great. Young guys in the secondary, I think, have been phenomenal in coverage. We've got to work on a little bit of run support as well.
Absolutely. And going to Iowa State's defense, they've got a guy, Jeremiah Cooper. He leads the nation in interceptions on defense. Now, we're not going to jinx it because we're not going to do that because Justin did that earlier. But Blake Shapen has yet to throw an interception this season, right? What is going to be the trick or the what kind of commotion is this guy going to cause, you think?
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting, right? Because it is strength against strength. I mean, this Iowa State team really has just a great secondary in general. The numbers bear that out. I mean, I want to see Blake continue to be aggressive, though. And Seth, you can speak to that because you played against some really good DBs, but you maintain that aggressiveness, that willingness to go downfield. So what if anything, for Blake, when you know that there's a guy like that in the defensive backfield, what changes but what can't change?
Yeah, you don't. Nothing really changes. I mean, you keep believing in what you do. You trust your ability. You're a gunslinger. You can rip it. Like, you know the offense. You know you're going to put the ball where you need to put it. Players are going to make plays, right? That's just part of it. I mean, if he ends up throwing one today, then okay, and it's to Jeremiah. I mean, yeah, he's one of the best in the country. I mean, but at least you're testing it, right? But that shows, hey, if I'm going to put the ball in the air, I know that my guy, 80% of the time is going to come down with it, right? Or you expect them to come down with it every single time. Like, that's why I'm throwing it to you right now. Now, if they have – luckily we have a couple of guys that can spread them out because Jeremiah can only be in one place at a time, right? And so it's like looking at it from just a quarterback standpoint, like, hey, if he's shifting a little bit more over here, okay, well, let's just maybe go the opposite side. Right? Hey, let's do a little motion. Hey, let's see if we can get them to move a little bit, whatever that looks like. I mean, the coaches are going to put you into a position to win. As a quarterback, you got to make the right decisions, right? Because you have the ball in your hand. I mean, just because you can throw it deep, you don't want to throw it in a double coverage and test your luck. Hey, just check it down, right? Throw it to the 5-yard quick route. That quick game that Baylor's been doing, we'll probably talk to that a little bit here in the next couple of segments. But really maximizing that, putting a lot of pressure on those kind of outside backers, safeties, having them come down, make tackles, which is really going to put that defense in a bind.
Well, going off of, that movement in the pocket and things like that, Rocco Beck, their quarterback, I think he's been sacked only 5 times. That's right. Shapen's been sacked 9 in the past 2 games. Yep. So what's the key to finding the quarterback and getting to Rocco today?
Yeah, you got to give him different looks, right? We haven't had a ton of success in 4-man pressures. What I think we have done that looked pretty good is that we'll have 4 down linemen. We'll line up our 2 backers in the A gap, and then we'll try to confuse the offensive line. Are we bringing 2 guys? Are we bringing 1 guy? Are we going to drop, a defensive end? Are we going to drop a linebacker? What are we going to do? So I think if we can confuse that offensive line, that we could create some opportunities for us because they've done a great job. I think they're 2nd nationally in sacks, something like that. Yeah. So they've had a ton of success. They've moved around their offensive line as well, and so since they've made that adjustment, they've been running the ball more effectively and they've protected their quarterback better.
Absolutely. Well, if you're just now joining us, you are here just in time. President Livingstone will be joining us on the desk for the very first time on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We have President Linda Livingstone joining us on the desk. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be with you, Nicole. It's a joy to be here on homecoming weekend.
We know you're very busy. Like you said, it's homecoming. Have you been all around today and earlier this week?
We have been very busy with all the activities on campus and, of course, the parade this morning. And it's been wonderful fun to have everybody back, enjoying reconnecting and just being back on campus.
That's awesome. So to start off today, you know, the Baylor line, when I moved to Waco, was something I always was so in awe by, of how it's a big tradition here. For you, you know, seeing those freshmen so excited out there, I feel like they brought a lot of energy this season. What do you think is the difference with, you know, this freshman class and what you've seen from them?
Well, we've been thrilled with how engaged this freshman class is. From the minute they stepped on campus during Welcome Week, they have been active and participating and engaged, and they've really come out running the line. And with 8 home games, it's a lot of running the lane.
It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, a lot of running the line, and they're thrilled to do it. And many of them have run it many times. Obviously, they've gotten to do it a lot. And they are just having a great time, and they're doing so well. So we're really proud of them. They're going to be a great class as they go through their years here at Baylor.
And what has your interaction been like with this freshman class? They, of course, love football, but it seems like they love all Baylor athletics, right?
Well, they do, and we love our students so much. In fact, we had a dinner on the Livingstone lawn on Wednesday night as part of homecoming, and had 8,000 of our favorite students join us with food trucks and everything. And I know the freshmen were a really important part of that. So they've really been actively engaged on campus in all kinds of ways, whether it's athletic activities or student groups and other things. And you love to see that. You know, the more engaged students are, the more likely they are to retain and graduate. So it's not just wonderful school spirit, it actually helps them academically to be successful.
President Livingstone, parade this morning. Even the rain last night couldn't put a damper on a homecoming, even though we weren't able to have the bonfire. But so many kind of bragging points. The first homecoming, I think the best. Take us through homecoming through your eyes a little bit. What's special about it as you get to see really all of it from start to finish?
Well, what I love about it is, you know, the Baylor family, they love Baylor so much. And a lot of it is because we have these wonderful traditions that no matter when you went to Baylor, you actually had that same experience. And so, you know, yesterday I had lunch with our graduates from 50 years ago, and it was so fun to hear them tell their stories and their experiences. And I met folks that were from Wind Chamber and Foundation and different things. And I think when they were students, that was actually when the Baylor line actually started. And I think it was before they ran the line, but they actually started the Baylor line. And so when you hear those stories and then you know how that has kind of flowed through all the classes since then, it's wonderful. And then we have new traditions, like we had a stroll off last night that some of our student groups participate in, and we have some really amazingly talented students. Of course, pigskin is a wonderful tradition on campus. So you have the old traditions and you have new traditions you start, and then the parade this morning was amazing. And I love the parade because it brings all of Waco together. You know, as you go through Austin Avenue and downtown, that's really where all the Waco people come and participate. Lots and lots of children. I think it's because they're waiting for people to throw candy and enjoy the candy. And then you come onto campus and it's students, alumni. I had a great crowd for the parade this morning. The weather was fabulous. So it's just a bringing of everybody together from across the generations, from across the years, who love Baylor, who care deeply about Baylor, and help us continue those traditions through the years.
Now we just cap it off with a win.
That's really exactly right. Beat Iowa State, and it'll be a perfect weekend.
President Livingstone, you mentioned campus, and we've seen the campus footprint grow. We've seen new buildings come. The Hurd Welcome Center was full of alumni last night. We've got the Paul and Alejandro Foster Pavilion upcoming here. Boy, just a little over 2 months away now, which is crazy to say. What are you excited about as we see games in the Foster Pavilion and see these buildings really kind of change the entry to the university?
It just gives us so many opportunities to bring people back in different ways and to engage them more fully in the life of Baylor. And, you know, a lot of people ask me what I love most about the Hurd Center, and it's a fabulous building, and I love so many things about the building itself and the experience it creates. But what I love most about it is that anytime you go in there, you're going to see prospective students and their families. You're going to see current students studying. You'll see alumni coming in. You might see people from the community, or frankly, somebody just driving down I-35 that goes, what in the world is that interesting looking building? And they stop. And so you just see all kinds of people from different aspects of the Baylor family. And we just really don't have a facility on campus where that happens so naturally now. And so I love the way that brings everybody together, and I think it'll really help build community over time. And then the Foster Pavilion, it's going to create such a fabulous game day experience. It'll be a much better home court advantage, a much better fan experience, and we can't wait for those first 2 games in January 2nd and 3rd.
I know it's going to be here before we know it.
I can't believe it. It's just around the corner.
Absolutely.
So, and everybody we talk to can't wait to get a ticket and come to one of the games this spring. So.
Me included. So President Livingstone, so this summer you were appointed the chairperson of the Big 12 Board of Directors for the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so how grateful are you to serve in this role, and what kind of responsibilities are included in that chairperson for the Big 12 Board of Directors?
Well, it's certainly an honor that your colleagues, the fellow presidents in the Big 12, trust me with that role and that responsibility, and so I'm honored to be able to do that. You chair the board, and really there's an executive committee that Wendy Winterstein, who's the president of Iowa State, is on, and Doug Gerard, who's the chancellor at Kansas. And so we also advise Commissioner Yormark between meetings and everything. We really help set the goals for the board and for the conference, and it's a great group of presidents. I love working with them. They're all excited about the restructuring of the conference and all the new teams coming in both this year and next year.
Yeah.
So we're excited about what's ahead for the conference. It's going to be great.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned Brett Yormark. What's it like working with the commissioner? How has that experience gone for you so far?
Well, Brett is high energy, go-getter, always has lots of new and great ideas, and I tell him this. I say, as a board, sometimes you have a leader that you kind of have to push to get things done. Brett, we sometimes have to go, okay, Brett, like you might want to slow down a little. We got lots of things going on, but you love the energy, you love the enthusiasm, the creativity. He's just brought a whole new energy and feel to the conference, and we're really excited. It's great for the future.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so, along with Commissioner Yormark, we've had a lot of new additions to the conference, right? And so, what's it been like to visit some of the new schools, and how excited are you to welcome the new schools that are coming to the conference?
Well, we love the new schools that are coming in. I was able to travel to UCF and then also to Cincinnati, and the fans there welcomed us. They're thrilled to be in the conference. Their presidents have been wonderful new partners in the organization. The presidents of the schools that are coming in next year, again, are really excited. I actually just saw Taylor Randall, the president of Utah, at an NCAA meeting earlier this week, and they're really looking forward to it. I think they thought the field was a little hot in early September when we played them. I said, you're gonna have to get used to it, Taylor. You're just gonna have to get used to it in Texas.
That's right. That's fantastic. Well, great. Well, we're glad to have you here. This has been such an enjoyable thing, I think, for all of us to watch you as you progress as the president of the university, and we all appreciate everything you've done.
Well, thank you. It's a blessing to be here and a joy. I just love being a part of the Baylor family and excited about the game today and all that's ahead for us.
And you just came from the Bear Walk, right? How was all
I did. It was great. Had a great turnout. The guys looked very focused and ready to go, and so I think we've got a good game ahead for us.
Well, awesome. Well, do you have any last words you want to share before we have to go?
Well, we just need to all get out there and cheer really loud today and encourage these young men and bring home a win against Iowa State for homecoming.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know you are extremely busy, but it was an honor to have you on it.
Thank you for having me.
So
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
But stay with us. We'll be right back here on the Baylor Alumni Tailgate Show. We're going to break down this Baylor offense as well as this prolific Iowa State offense. So we'll be right back.